This is Let's Talk Chattanooga Real Estate, the podcast where we cover home buying, home selling, home improvement tips and ideas, market trends and developments, and investing in real estate. If you own real estate in the Chattanooga, Tennessee area, or want to own real estate here, then you're in the right place. Let's Talk Chattanooga Real Estate is hosted by Blake Watson, a real estate agent and investor in Tennessee and Georgia.
Welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Chattanooga Real Estate. I'm your host, Blake Watson, and I'm a licensed realtor brokered by Epique Realty. And a lot of people know that I live on some acreage with my family and that we raise small goats. So I guess that's why I so often have someone tell me that they would like to find a little bit of acreage out in the country, escape the subdivisions and city life, and have room to spread out. It seems like a common request. If I can just find 3 to 5 acres out in the country, I would be happy as could be to have a home out in the country. So today we're diving into a topic that should hit home with you if you're wanting a little more country and a little less city. Plus, we'll explore some special considerations if you're dreaming of buying a countryside farmhouse. Here we go. This episode is for you. Let's kick things off with urban living. Cities have a lot to offer, right? Well, let's look at downtown Chattanooga. You're close to the Riverwalk, the Tennessee Aquarium, and all those cool restaurants and shops in the North Shore District. And here are some of the big positives of living in the city. Of course, you have access to amenities. You got everything at your fingertips: restaurants, shopping, entertainment, and cultural attractions. Think of what's in Chattanooga, the Chattanooga Choo Choo, Southside, and Memorial Auditorium. You also have access to public transportation in the city. If you have no car, that's not a problem. Car-to-bus system, the electric shuttle make getting around pretty easy. You can even hop on one of those bicycles that are available throughout the city and get to almost anything that you need. Or, of course, you can always Uber if you need to. And there are lots of job opportunities in the city. Cities like Chattanooga offer a wide range of job opportunities, especially in growing sectors like tech at the Innovation District and healthcare at Erlanger, CHI Memorial, Park Ridge. Lots of healthcare job opportunities available right here in the city. In fact, those job opportunities come with healthcare facilities, which is also a great benefit of being in the urban area of a city. You have access to top-notch healthcare services and specialized medical facilities. So if you have a specialist you need to go see, well, you're not having to drive a really long way to go see that specialist because they're right here in the city. Educational institutions like prestigious schools, the university, the library, they're all right in the heart of the city. Just think about this. UTC, Chattanooga State, McCallie, CCS, GPS, they're all great examples of education that's available right here in town. Networking opportunities. It's easier to build professional and social networks when you're in the hustle and bustle of a city. Everybody's close by. It's easy to have meetings. It's easy to run into people at the coffee shop. Convenience. Of course, the city brings convenience. A lot of services and facilities are open 24/7, and they're just down the road in many cases. The city brings cultural diversity. We certainly have this in Chattanooga. It's a melting pot of different cultures, languages, and cuisines. Just a ride down East Main Street, you're going to find some great things to eat, some real cultural diversity. It's a lot of fun right here in the city. Recreational activities like parks, sports facilities, recreational programs, they're all readily available. You've got Coolidge Park, you've got the Brainerd Recreation Area, the various climbing gyms around town. Lots of opportunities for recreation in the city. Technology and innovation. Cities are often the first to adopt new technologies and innovations. Of course, Chattanooga is Gig City. One of the fastest internet speeds in the country is here in Chattanooga thanks to EPB, and it's readily available to virtually every resident in town. With that being said, understand that most rural areas are also seeing great improvements in connectivity and high-speed internet. So those are all benefits of living in the city, but let's not forget about the cons. You've got a higher cost of living. Everything tends to be more expensive. The rent, it's all generally a little bit more expensive in the city. Noise pollution. Cities can be noisy with traffic, construction, crowds. If you live anywhere in Brainerd around the airport, you know what I'm talking about. Of course, in our rural areas, we have a lot of trains in this part of the country. Another con is limited space. Living spaces are often smaller, and private outdoor areas are generally more limited. You don't have acreage with your house in the city. Traffic congestion, my goodness, we certainly know that here in Chattanooga. Frequent traffic jams, longer commutes, they certainly can be a headache, especially during those peak hours on the Ridge Cut and through the 24/75 split. Boy, we have our share of headaches with traffic. Air pollution, yes. Chattanooga has come a million miles away from the city that we once were, with factories and plants that were belching pollution into the air, especially on the south side of the city. But even with those things gone, we've cleaned up so much of our air in Chattanooga, but you've still got higher levels of air pollution just because the nature of all the vehicles and people. Stress levels. Well, okay, the city does bring a little bit higher stress levels. Fast-paced lifestyle, it brings more stress. You can certainly have stress out in the country. There's plenty of that to go around on this earth, but it does seem that the pace of rural life does bring a little more calm and less stress. Crime rates. Well, cities generally do have higher crime rates compared to rural areas. Lack of privacy. Okay, this is a big one. With so many people around, privacy can be hard to come by in the city. Even if you're in a private, gated subdivision, you've still got houses all around you. There's not much that you can do that would be very private. And then finally, there's limited nature access. Well, that's true. There's less access to natural environments and green spaces. There's a lot more concrete. Thankfully, here in Chattanooga, we have wonderful parks. We have wonderful tree-lined streets. We are blessed to have so much natural beauty right here in our city. So sometimes you don't even feel like you're in the city, even when you are. Now, let's switch gears and talk about rural living. If you just step out of the Chattanooga city limits into parts of Hamilton County, especially towards Soddy Daisy or Ooltewah, Appleton, on Signal Mountain, especially further out, and in northwest Georgia, of course, Dade, Walker, Catoosa, Whitfield counties, they all have some beautiful rural areas, and there are many perks to living in the county a little bit away from the city. Let's talk about some of those perks. There's a lower cost of living usually. Housing costs and everyday expenses are generally lower. Not everything's less, but those big tickets, housing costs and property taxes, are generally lower when you're out in the county away from the city. Country life brings natural beauty. You're surrounded by scenic views. You wake up to views of the Appalachian foothills or the rolling hills and mountains near Chickamauga and Lafayette. In the country, you might even live on a mountain and be able to look out over a valley. Space. This is the big one. There are larger spaces in rural areas, larger living spaces, and plenty of outdoor areas are available. You can usually build a larger house. You have more square footage. You can spread out. You can have it all on one level if you want to, if you've got the land to do so. And there's plenty of outdoor areas, maybe just right out your front door. Peace and quiet in the country. It's much quieter with less noise pollution, and here's another one, less light pollution. If you try to look at the stars from really almost anywhere in the city of Chattanooga, you're going to see far fewer stars than if you are out in the country. If you get away from those city lights, you can look up in the sky and see amazing things at night. You can see satellites going by. You can see stars, planets, the works. It's all out there, and getting away from light pollution is really a refreshing thing. A community feel. Usually in rural areas, there's a strong sense of community and closer relationships with neighbors. That is absolutely true, and I think it has a lot to do with reliance on neighbors that really comes from more of a rural country living. Let me tell you something from my own life. So my family has a farm in Walker County, Georgia. It's in Macklemore Cove, which is away from the city. It's a 30-minute drive to St. Elmo if you're heading into Chattanooga. A lot more people have moved out that way. There are a lot more residents in that area, but it's still country. Well, all my life growing up, as soon as we got to Davis Crossroads or south of Highway 136, we would always wave to every car on the road. It was the common culture at the time. It's waned a bit now. I can still drive down West Cove Road and wave at just about every vehicle that comes by, and they'll wave back, or they may be waving at me before I wave at them. That's the kicker. It's not just me waving, it's them waving at me. But for a long time, everybody waved at everybody on that road, and it was just part of that community. And it's because there was no one traveling through that area. It's a cove, mountains around, so everyone that lived in that community knew each other, or at least knew that we were neighbors. So that community feel is just a great blessing of being out in the country. And yes, Chattanooga is blessed with having a strong sense of city community, but it's just not the same as being out in the country. I'll just tell you that. Healthier lifestyle. There's more opportunities for outdoor activities and fresh air. You've got just an opportunity to have more health out in the country. Self-sufficiency. Get this. You can garden, farm, and live more sustainably. A lot of people that I talk with who are buying goats from our farm are actually working to build themselves a homestead lifestyle. They want to raise their own chickens, raise their own goats. We have friends in the community who raise their own chickens to harvest. With our cattle farm, we're able to actually raise our own beef. So self-sufficiency is definitely a plus out in the country. You're able to do that. Lower crime rate. Well, generally, rural areas have lower crime rates. That's just the fact, I guess, because there's fewer people. Less opportunity to get into a fight about something. Slower pace. There is a more relaxed and slower paced lifestyle the more rural you get. The closer you get to the country, the more relaxed everything gets, and that's a great thing. Wildlife. How about this? You're closer to wildlife and natural habitats. So it's not unusual to see deer and raccoons and certainly possums and those sorts of animals out and about. In fact, it's extremely common to see deer anywhere outside of the Chattanooga city limits and sometimes even in the city limits. But rural living has its own challenges as well. There are limited amenities. You do have fewer restaurants and entertainment options, shopping centers. You might have to drive into town for a night out. Yeah, there's going to be a Dollar General down the road somewhere. Dollar General has done a fantastic job of bringing the groceries and the convenience to rural communities. So thank you, Dollar General. But aside from that, if you want something a little more special than what they offer, well, you're probably going to be needing to go into the city. Transportation, well, you're going to need a personal vehicle. You're going to need a car or truck. There's just not public transportation out in the country. Job opportunities, there are fewer job opportunities, potentially lower salaries out in the country. However, again, thanks to this penetration of high-speed internet out into the rural areas and opportunities for work from home, there are a lot more opportunities to live in the country and have higher-paying jobs. My nephew lives on the farm, and he's been a CPA, an accountant, working for national, international accounting firms, and he's done that from the farm using his computer and high-speed internet. Healthcare access. There is more limited access to advanced healthcare services and specialists. I think the big thing there is the specialists. You're going to have to travel into the city to get to some of that specialized healthcare. That's just a fact of life. Educational facilities. There are fewer educational institutions and resources out in the country. Fact. Isolation. Well, it can feel isolating due to fewer social opportunities. Hopefully that community aspect, that community feel will help you to get plugged into more social things. And anywhere in life, there are opportunities to be socially interacting with folks around you, whether you're in the country or in the city. The internet and technology. Well, if there are slower internet speeds, they're going to be in the country usually, and limited tech infrastructure. That's true. However, as I mentioned, there are tremendous strides being made to get fiber optics and high-speed internet run throughout the rural areas around our city. Maintenance. Now, here's one for you. You're probably going to have higher maintenance requirements for larger properties and land. There's just more to take care of. There's more yard to mow. Because the house is bigger, you've got more gutters to clean. You've got more faucets to take care of. There are going to be fewer available services and longer response times for emergencies. It's going to take the fire department a little bit longer to get to you when you're out in the country. It's going to take an ambulance longer to get to you when you're out in the country. So just know that that's what you're dealing with out in rural areas. So if you're leaning towards rural life, what should you consider when purchasing a house? Well, here are some key points, especially relevant to our local area. Keep in mind, usually you're not on a sewer system, but you're on a septic system. So rural homes often use septic tanks instead of the city sewer system. You won't have wastewater fees, and you won't have a sewer fee if you're out in the country, but you will have some maintenance to be concerned about with your septic tank. Water supply. If you're really out in the country, you may not have what is called city water. And that just means a public water supply where there's a water pipe that's running on the street near your house and you're able to tap into it with a water meter and just buy your water from the water company. If you're really out there in the country, you very well may be using well water. You're going to have some additional concerns about water quality and the well's condition and maintenance on your well if you have a well water supply. Out in the country, natural gas is probably not going to be available. So there are alternatives like propane gas. So you'll need a propane tank, and a truck will drive out to your house and fill up your propane tank once or twice a year. Or you can certainly have electric heating systems. That's common. Internet and phone service, well, reliable internet and particularly cell phone service can be limited in some of the rural areas. You'd want to research the providers around, see if Verizon has a better signal, AT&T has a better signal, whatever it may be. Consider also in the country that rural properties may have gravel or dirt roads that need regular upkeep. If you're moving to the country, think about the agricultural use of your property if you plan to farm or raise animals. There is going to be a concern about soil quality, water availability, any agricultural restrictions that may be in place, so that's something to be thoughtful about. Wildlife and pests. We've already talked about that, but be prepared for wildlife encounters and also, of course, the need for pest control. We need pest control anywhere in Chattanooga or outside of Chattanooga. That is something that's necessary no matter where you are in this area. You'll want to be prepared for more power outages because rural areas might have more frequent power outages. It's just more common out in the country. Consider having a backup power solution like a generator. That's not difficult, and if you've got the space and land, well, having a generator is not that difficult to add to your backup plan. And then also you'll need to consider your insurance. Rural properties may have different insurance requirements. That would include the coverage for outbuildings, maybe some farm equipment, and any specific natural hazards that may be around. This is just a consideration that you'll want to talk with your insurance agent about. And let's not forget one of my favorite parts about rural living, and that is raising animals. On our family farm in Ringgold, we do raise Nigerian Dwarf goats, and it's incredibly rewarding, but also a lot of work. So if you're considering livestock, make sure you have the right facilities and knowledge to take care of them properly. And if you'd like to talk about goats specifically, well, I am happy to talk with you about goats. You can look up our website at dancinggoat.farm and check out the Dancing Goat Farm in Ringgold, Georgia. That's my farm. So there you have it, urban versus rural living. Remember, the best choice depends on your lifestyle, your needs, and your own personal preferences. And I would love to talk with you about any of those things and help you whether you are looking for a city house or a country house. I love them both. I've lived in both, and I hope that you'll contact me to help you out with your search for real estate. So thanks for listening to Let's Talk Chattanooga Real Estate. If you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover in the future, please feel free to reach out. I'm Blake Watson. I'm an agent with Epique Realty. I am licensed in Tennessee and Georgia, and my mobile phone is 423-315-1815, and my brokerage office phone is 888-893-3537. You can find me on Facebook and LinkedIn as Blake Watson and on Instagram as Rock and Roll Blake. My website is @homechattanooga.com. And if this podcast has been helpful to you, well, please share this podcast with a friend and follow this podcast so you won't miss an episode. And until next time, I wish you all the best in your real estate journey.